listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So I think for the very first time in my life, I had a coworker convince me that I have been thinking about January all wrong. I have been thinking about January as a massive hangover from Christmas. I've been thinking of it as like the real downer, like Christmas was so fun and it's all kinds of fun and everyone's out fun. There's decorations, there's music, there's food. And then, oh my gosh, January comes and it's this huge abrupt pivot into nothingness, like you're going into Mordor or something.
That's how everybody sees January.
Yes. However, my friend at work, Jen, I'm going to credit her, Jen Wilson, said to me, no, January is a pause. It is quiet. It is a time that nobody's expecting anything of you. You just get to kind of hide out, get some things done, maybe plan some things for the rest of the year, but it's the perfect month for doing absolutely nothing.
Does your employer agree with that assessment? Are they cool with that? Just take the month off.
You know, I haven't hit them with my entire plan. But I mean,
overall, it's going to increase your productivity throughout the year. So you could just be like, just give me this fallow time and let my soil replenish, and you're going to get a great 11 months out of me.
Yeah, and I mean, probably they would say, and you know, you remember when you came to us in December and said, look, it's a crazy month. Don't expect much of me. Like, you know, it's just, there's so much to do. It's a real social thing. I just can't see myself being too productive for December.
We're starting to see a pattern here. That's the...
But so my question is, do you believe her?
Well, when I started thinking of it that way, I really liked that idea a lot. I thought it was better than the kind of sadness that I had decided to sink myself into. You know, it's like we all don't get magazines and as much as, you know, we used to, but I still get some magazines delivered. And they're so thin in January. Like all the advertising is gone. It's just an admission. Nobody's spending any money. It's all over. Whatever you had, you threw it all away in December. You've got nothing left for us. And I always think of January that way. And now I'm just thinking of it. It's true. Like it's kind of just not great. It's dark and you can just hide away and no one's going to even notice.
That doesn't sound less depressing.
No, I'm struggling to find out anything positive about it. I mean, I don't hate January, but I can't think of much positive about it. I used to go on a little trip in January. It's actually our anniversary, so we'd go on a little trip at the end of the month. So, you know, in January 2020, that was the first time I went to Disney. So that was pretty cool. Ooh. So if you give yourself a little treat, I think that's, you know, maybe that's the way to think about it. As a, you know, you can just treat yourself because it's a sad month.
Or you can just go through all the stages of grief and like denial and acceptance and raging or whatever. And then, you know, spend the first week doing all that. And then you come out at the other end and you're just like, I guess I just have to do this. I just have to be an adult and do January.
Yeah, I guess so. What you're saying to me is that I've just rolled quickly into acceptance in my stages of grief. And
I think so. Yeah.
There's nothing really to do. And I mean, it's just like, there's nothing in the next few weeks that, you know, you're just like, well, you have this holiday idea, which is fantastic. But, you know, mostly I'm just kind of like, let's get it over with.
I mean, we've got a hot chocolate festival.
Right. Yeah, the Hot Chocolate Festival.
Yes, there we go.
Happening.
Yeah.
Lunar New Year's.
Okay.
Coming up.
Right.
February 10th. So.
That's February.
You know, I know. But the decorations go up like 2 weeks before, etc. I start shopping around for feng shui stuff around now. So I mean, maybe you can sort of adapt Lunar New Year as a thing that you do, and just start like looking up your horoscope, putting up some decorations.
I'm starting to look forward. Like the year picks up in February because it feels, especially being really spoiled living in Vancouver, you start to see signs of spring in February, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that definitely happens. Whereas that's not happening in January, and if it happens, everyone's panicking because, like, why is this happening,
it's
right?
not natural.
It's not natural. But by February, March, you're like, okay, we're going to get into spring soon, right? Like the whole thing picks up as soon as January's done.
But I think places that are cold and wet in the winter, like Vancouver, but also most of Northern Europe, like they do make a bit of an effort. I mean, that's what Christmas is sort of about, isn't it? Traditionally, like pre-Christian, it's about like, this is a dark and miserable time. Let's like eat and have colourful lights and little
exactly,
treats.
yeah.
If we can kind of keep that rolling, just keep that sort of hearth energy going for a few more weeks.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Get to February.
But like, nobody does that. Everybody wakes up January 1st in a funk because the whole thing's behind them. They take all the decorations down and they put all the Christmas albums away, and then it just starts.
So what are you suggesting? Like we extend the Christmas season until January 31st?
Then you're probably right. Then I would just probably hate February. Like that would it would have
Christmas
to just move it off.
Christmas will now go from September 1st to January 31st.
See, I think that's why people complain about Christmas creep, that it starts in November, or I don't know, maybe some people start in October, yeah. But I think what people are really saying is this is the most magical time of the year. Let's like keep this going because we know January's coming and it's going to be awful. And if we could just do this for a little bit longer, Maybe if there was like more potlucks in January, I think maybe that's.
So you're saying maybe if Christmas was a 4-month season, it would help you deal with January.
Yes, is that so much to ask?
I mean,
it's just an idea.
Pitch it. You should pitch it. You should try to make it happen. Just keep celebrating Christmas throughout January.
There are Christmas stores, right? You know that. That's all they sell. That's the whole thing. Yeah. And they're open all year.
Keep drinking eggnog, keep bringing in cookies to work. Wear red.
It's the asymmetry, isn't it? Like Christmas builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it just sort of peters out so quickly. If you had a thing, how about instead of like taking down all your decorations on 12th night, taking down your tree and throwing it away, like you just took off one decoration a day for like 30 days. And then by the time we get to the end of January, you haven't got any decorations, but it's February's coming, so.
Right, yeah. So you're right. I probably need to just kind of not go cold turkey on Christmas, is what you're saying. Oh, just excuse the pun there, but
gonna just taper down your dose of turkey into that.
Yeah, we should make a holiday that's like second Christmas. That's on like January 15th.
Yeah.
Is there anything around that date? Is there something like what? I mean, there's always
there's Ukrainian Christmas New Year too, right? That's in mid to late January, right?
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. But I think if you did like second Christmas, then you could have like a whole other Christmas dinner, and you would have something to look forward to in January.
I like this idea. Okay, so maybe I'm not much of a pause person. I'm more of a just keep the party going.
Yeah, I think so.
What are we looking for? Do we have events in January? Are there any?
Yeah. Well, January 15th. I'm looking at January 15th because that's a good date, right in the middle of the month. Skrillex's birthday.
Oh,
we could have a Skrillex birthday party. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also Ben Shapiro's birthday, so there's something for both sides of the political divide to celebrate there. Yeah.
No one else around there?
No one else that interesting
because David Bowie's in the middle of the month or the beginning of the month, right?
We just had him, didn't we, a couple of days ago, I think, David Bowie.
On the 8th, I think.
Yeah, nothing on the 15th. Just it's Skrillex
Skrillex
Day.
And Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, he gets it to himself.
Well, I mean, it would be
Skrillmas.
kind of like it would make sense for second Christmas to be completely like a little different, at least from regular Christmas, and maybe you play Skrillex, like that's the traditional music.
That actually works out in a weird way. Second Christmas, but it's first Skrillex, right? So I think we can just call it Skrillex from now on, and it almost has
Skrillexmas.
Skrillexmas.
I mean, those Christmas songs are going to be intense. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It's more of a rave type situation, right? Like we can do a big dance party, and I like this idea. Okay.
Yeah, it's more casual.
Yeah. Yeah, something to look forward to. I like this idea. I've got a plan now. So
Second Christmas.
Second Christmas.
Skrillmas
is coming.
We need to look up like what Skrillex's favorite foods are and stuff like that, and so we can build a mythology around Skrillexmas.
Yeah, what he likes to eat and where he's been seen, and
I didn't know that much about Skrillex. I don't even know where he's from.
And I'm going to guess. I don't know for a fact, but I bet he has another name. Like, I don't think that's his real name, is it?
Isn't Skrillex
James Skrillex?
American.
I think
he's American. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Los Angeles.
Oh, it's not very exciting. I thought there would be some more romance, but no, I guess not. Okay. Northeast Los Angeles. All right, I can go there for a pilgrimage. At least it's nice in the winter.
Yeah, so that
that's good actually. We can be snowbirds. Skrillex snowbirds, eat a burrito. I think that's what he'd want, isn't it? If he's from LA. Big festive burrito with cranberry sauce.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's all starting to gel.
All coming together.
It's all coming together. I am so ready for this.
Okay, look, we solved January. Now we have to move on and solve the movie that we're talking about today, for which we brought on an expert guest to talk about quantum physics.
Yeah, very important to this movie.
It's our ringer.
Yeah, to help us figure it out. You're listening to Pop This. I'm Andrea Gin.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And I'm Martin Zaltz Austwick.
Welcome, Martin. Thanks for
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
being here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this sort of spiritual successor to Oppenheimer, Sliding Doors.
Never heard it put that way, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Thanks for sitting in this week for Andrea Warner, who is off on a writing break right now, but will be back next week. We brought you on to talk about the movie Sliding Doors because you're British.
Oh, that's the reason.
If people didn't notice already.
Okay.
Yeah, and so can you sort of talk about how you came to suggest this movie as something that you wouldn't mind appearing on a podcast talking about?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. I don't watch a lot of rom-coms, but for some reason I watched this when it came out and liked it. And I guess it's sort of been at the back of my brain since then. But I don't remember how we came to pick it for the show.
I think I had never heard anyone say that before. And so I was like, oh.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Martin's got to come on and talk about Sliding Doors. Because we've never, until last week, we had never done a Gwyneth Paltrow movie on this podcast in 9 years.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I don't think any of us have ever mentioned Sliding Doors as something that we wanted to talk about on this podcast. It's never come up. And so I think when you spoke of it with some lukewarm enthusiasm, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I think maybe it is a bigger thing in the UK, in the sort of pantheon of rom-coms. I think maybe it has a little bit more, it's a bit more beloved in the UK because it's a UK film with mostly UK actors set in London.
So whose accent is more embarrassing? Is it Renee Zellweger in Bridget Jones' Diary, or is it Gwyneth Paltrow in Sliding Doors?
I think they're both really good accents. I
haven't
watched. Yeah, I haven't rewatched Bridget Jones lately. It's a little bit more Daphne from Frasier, isn't it? But no, Gwyneth Paltrow's accent is great in this movie, and I remember thinking that at the time. At the time, I hadn't watched many Gwyneth Paltrow movies. I think I'd seen 7, and I'd seen Shakespeare in Love. So I thought she was British. I thought she was doing an American accent for 7 because it's a pretty small role, isn't it? She doesn't have to do very much. And rewatching it, I'm like, yeah, she really nails it. It's really interesting because the 90s were this era when posh people were trying not to sound posh because being more working class was cool. So you must have heard the Pulp song "Common People," which kind of lampoons that whole thing of just rich people slumming it essentially. And obviously there's always been like this phenomenon of middle class and working class people upselling their accent to get better jobs and be socially mobile, and she's right in the middle of that. So it's a really well done accent, and I did think she was British. Yeah, great. Renée Zellweger, I think, did a pretty good job. I can't remember, but like none of those are clangers. It's not kind of Dick Van Dyke.
Mary Poppins.
Yeah. The only thing that I didn't necessarily find her accent off-putting or anything, but I did think that they were overcompensating with the slang.
Yes.
And I noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff like no one uses shagging in that way. Like no one says, "I've had a really shagging bad day." Like, and that's what they were obviously trying to like get around the censors. Mm-hmm. That just feels so like quaintly English in a way that like sort of Austin Powers like leans into that.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that. And and there's certain things where they do lean into the Englishness and the Britishness a little bit too much. Like the Monty Python stuff. That Monty Python stuff gives me a full body cringe every time. Like the whole recurring thing of him talking about the Spanish Inquisition sketch is just a bit of a weird character quirk. But when he's doing it in front of a pub full of people and they're all laughing, going, "Oh wow, you're reciting Monty Python," like that would get you like defenestrated if you did that in a British pub. Like, that is not charming or cute. It's just the most nerdy thing to do.
Did Monty Python experience a sliding doors bump? In their
I think Monty Python were doing fine in the UK before sliding doors. But,
Yeah. I mean, this movie it's just sort of transported me back to the 90s. Like that, her hair, her blonde haircut, all those outfits. Like it was
black leather jackets.
Yeah. Yeah. And the music. And it just made me think like, wow, we have been living with Gwyneth Paltrow as a cultural force like most of our lives now. Like this is, last week we talked about her movie duets. And I think at the time, everybody was obsessed with Gwyneth Paltrow, like her look. She was in so many successful movies. She was like the top actress at the time. But now when I go back and watch her movies, like we've just been living with her as this she's now transformed into this goop, successful business person. And it's hard for me to watch her in movies now because I can only think of like her as a wellness guru. And
is she still making movies? I just haven't
No, I don't think in a long time.
Yeah, but it's just so distracting because I can't get like the Gwyneth Paltrow that has just like the huge entity that she is in our culture out of my head when I'm watching movies now.
It's hard for me to not think about conscious uncoupling. It's just like that phrase. I don't think anyone was saying. And I feel bad for Chris Martin because, that was a lot at the time.
I think Chris Martin's doing fine as well.
Okay, maybe.
He's okay.
Yeah.
But also, like, when you look at her blonde haircut in this movie, you think, oh, yeah, I remember she was, like, dating Brad Pitt at the time, and they had the same haircut. And, like, yeah, it's just, like, she's so attached to our collective cultural memories. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
And she was huge at the time, wasn't it? Because she done Seven, she done Shakespeare in Love. I can't remember what else was coming out at the time, but that was really her era, wasn't it? The late 90s.
She was in Emma at the time. Like, she did a series of British
so what was happening?
movies.
Did she move to England? Did she just get cast?
Point.
Like, I'm sure you... I mean, I don't want to speak for all of England, but I feel there's some acting talent there.
Yeah, there's a couple of actors in the UK. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, she sort of has that star quality. I don't know if there were English actors coming out who had that in the same way at the time. I don't know. But that statement could probably be quite easily disproved. But yeah, it's funny that you'd be like, well, we need someone who can do an English accent, so we'll cast an American actor who was like definitely blowing up, but wasn't huge at the time, right? I don't know. I do find that a little bit baffling, but maybe you're right. Maybe she was just hanging out in London and just got to the casting calls quickly. I don't know. Because
the other person I was thinking, and they must be around the same era as that Notting Hill, but when they put Julia Roberts in that, they just let her be American.
Yeah, because a lot of that is about the culture clash, isn't it? Of like this big film star and then the sort of bumbling, self-deprecating English person. But there's no. I guess Jean, is it Jean or Jeannie Triplehorn is the sort of American character in Sliding Doors. And she's sort of brash and unpleasant, which again is a bit of a, she is sort of playing a little bit of a stereotype. But at least, but she even gets a bit of a redemption arc, doesn't she? Because at the end you see how sad she is being in this horrible relationship with this idiot English man, when she's in the hotel room, and she's just desperately trying to get him to commit to her and leave this woman. So, even this sort of, she's quite a bully and quite unpleasant, but then you see where this is coming from. It's coming from, the pain of being in this awful relationship with this terrible guy failing to write a novel,
Oh, what honestly.
It's so awful.
Well,
okay.
Hold on. Before we get too far into it, we should read Martin's bio. I'll take a crack at it. Martin Zaltz Austwick is an audiomaker, musician, writer, and performer. He co-created the experimental podcast Neutrino Watch, was a key part of the award-winning podcasts Answer Me This, Maddie's Sound Explorers, and Song by Song. And he's worked on podcasts like Love and Radio, 20,000 Hertz, The Illusionist, and Drilled. Martin has a doctorate in quantum physics and materials and is an eggfluencer and a boba influencer in his spare time.
Yeah, I'm branching out.
Yes.
I think the quantum physics thing is relevant to this movie. I don't want to go too far into it, but it is like that thing of, everyone knows like Schrodinger's cat and like when the whole universe divides, and if you open the box up, do you see the cat alive or dead? And there's this whole theory that like when you open the box, you enter one universe or the other. It's not like the cat changes. It's just like you're committing to being in the alive universe or the dead universe. So it feels like, although quantum physics had been around since the 1920s, that's that sort of strand of thought of like the whole, reality that you see can hinge on like a very, very small binary choice. That feels like a very sort of sliding doors thing. And again, like there's other films and stories since then that have used that idea, hasn't there? There's like a Krzysztof Kieslowski movie that he was like, they just ripped me off, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not just, a direct line from Einstein to Sliding Doors. There's a few steps along the way, but
I was just imagining that as the film blurb on the top of the poster for Sliding Doors. From Einstein to Sliding Doors.
2 easy steps.
Yeah.
That's going to be the title of this podcast.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to read the background?
Yeah. Sliding Doors is a 1998 romantic comedy drama filmed and directed by Peter Howitt and starring Gwyneth Paltrow, while also featuring John Hannah, John Lynch, and Jean Triplehorn. It is the origin of the phrase sliding doors moment, which became popularized after the movie's release, meaning seemingly inconsequential moments that nonetheless alter the trajectory of future events. Although the term originated from the film, the concept was explored earlier by J.B. Priestley in his 1932 play Dangerous Corner. Fun fact, singer Dido's song Thank You, which appeared on the soundtrack, became a hit 2 years later, hitting number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Record producer The 45 King heard the song in the film and looped the opening lines and added a bass line. He sent the results to Interscope Records, where it was used on Eminem's song Stan, as Eminem interpreted the lines as being about stalking. Wow, that took a turn, hey? That little background?
Well, I mean, I thought that was like an interesting side note to this movie because, I don't know, in North America, we think of it as kind of a minor, forgettable movie that not many people have seen.
Yes.
But it's lived on in these things like there's sliding doors moments. It's the origin of the Dido song, which became an Eminem song, which became this like massive, huge hit. Like, I mean, compared to duets, like this movie has like lived on, had a life of its own as a cultural entity. So I just found that really interesting.
I don't think it's a hot take to say this is a much better film than Duets. I did watch Duets.
Boy. Oh my gosh.
But also to note that Gwyneth Paltrow was not an Oscar winner before she was in this movie, but she was by the time she was in Duets.
Take that for what you will. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's giving her bad advice.
Yeah.
Martin, would you like to read the synopsis of the film?
Oh, yeah, hang on 1 second. The central prop of Sliding Doors is predictably a pair of sliding doors. Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Helen, a plucky London PR rep, gets fired from her job early one morning. When she attempts to get back to her flat, she finds herself racing towards an underground train car whose doors are about to close in her face. First, we see her just barely miss the train. Swerving out of the way of a wayward child adds a crucial second to her travel time. Then a rewind and a replay. This time, the wayward child's mother sweeps her out of Helen's way, and Helen manages to wedge her elbow between the swiftly closing doors. From there, we see Helen's life unfold in two versions. One in which she boards the train and makes it home in time to catch her boyfriend cheating on her and subsequently throw him out, and another in which the train leaves without Helen. Her boyfriend's dour American mistress escapes before Helen arrives, and the relationship and the affair both continue. In the first scenario, she turns her rock-bottom day into an opportunity for a life reinvention, complete with a new business of her own, a stirring fairy tale love story arc, and the iconic 90s-era Gwyneth blonde pixie coif. In the missed train scenario, she descends further into her dire situation, taking on multiple low-paying jobs to support her lazy, lying boyfriend as he purports to be working on his novel, and she remains sadly brunette.
And that's
what a
from
missed
Ashley.
Opportunity.
That's from Ashley Fetters in The Cut. I found that like the summaries of this movie were either like one sentence long or like 10,000 words long.
Right.
This is one of the only ones I found that was like
Mid-length.
could be summarized in a nice 2 paragraphs.
It does remind me a little bit of like It's a Wonderful Life or, like A Christmas Carol, where it's like, this is how your life could go. She doesn't really get the choice. It's not like she gets to choose, which happens. It's just they both happen to her, and you see the effects of this kind of split moment. But yeah, curiously, certain things just sort of work out the same. It's interesting that like this movie, spends the whole runtime kind of going, look at these amazing consequences that could arise from just this tiny little, split second of delay or indecision. And then at the end, like, but maybe everything just worked out the same, which is a little bit of an odd message.
Yeah, it's curious, right? Because you would think that like it would make a lot of sense for them to have done a movie about what happens when you have another opportunity and like she went blonde, she started a business, she like made a new life, and it would be easy just to allow her character just to live happily ever after.
Yeah, or just to see how it pans out. Yeah, are we spoilering?
Yeah,
this
we
movie?
spoiler all our movies, so yeah, warning.
Especially
spoilers.
ones from 1998. Yes.
Yeah.
Because like blonde Gwyneth Paltrow out of nowhere just gets hit by a bloody van and dies, which is just like, it's very Deus Machina, right? It's like it didn't need to happen. Like she could have, I don't know, had some other tragedy or something else happened, but they just kill that character. So like this you see all these things that result from her heartbreak and this journey she goes on and like getting up on her own 2 feet, and then she just gets hit by a van, which is really
Is the
strange
idea
choice.
being that if she had maybe just taken 1 second extra or the other way, she wouldn't have been hit by the van? Is that, I don't know, like...
because she's like impatient, a little bit more impatient? I don't think so.
I don't know. I just was wondering if it still had the same sliding doors message, which is, take 1 second here, 1 second there. You never know what's going to happen. Oh, she took the wrong second. She got hit by a van.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, there's no difference. Like one of the characters does die. One of the versions of her does die. But then there's a hint that the version of her that didn't catch the train, that didn't catch her cheating boyfriend at that moment, is going to kind of carry on a similar arc to blonde Gwyneth Paltrow. She's going to leave the boyfriend, discover her independence, find love with the Monty Python spouting John Hannah, and maybe have quite a nice life, which is quite nice. So yeah, I don't know.
It was. I have to say, the ending was very, very mysterious, because the other thing I didn't understand, like we had gone through this whole journey. I know I'm skipping ahead here to the ending of this movie, but I did not at all understand why they threw in that he was married. It didn't make any sense to the movie at all.
It's just rom-com jeopardy, isn't it? It's just like you need to put something in where the main characters don't communicate, and that lack of communication like takes them apart in the second act.
But it barely registered. It was like very, very like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says it. she forgives him, and then she gets hit by a bus or whatever, or the
Yeah.
van, right? It was so quick.
I mean, it's not conventional rom-com in that sense, is it? I mean, I suppose while you're sleeping, it has someone getting hit by a train or something at the beginning, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now there's a great movie. Hey, I love that movie. But anyway,
there's a lot of vehicular manslaughter in rom-coms, it turns out.
But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about how, because we were talking about, again, referring to duets last week, there are two examples of Gwyneth Paltrow rom-coms that have like violent climax.
Yeah.
To the like unexpected. And it's just like, and it's so unusual to see it in a rom-com. And yet there are two of her rom-coms like in the 90s and early 2000s that do this kind of thing. That's like a shocking act of violence at the end of the
and
movie.
then also just the unfortunate making both versions pregnant and then having to lose the baby. Like, it was so dark at the end.
That was the 90s. That was the 90s.
Was that what we were doing? We were just like losing baby. Here you lost your baby. You like, it just seemed odd.
But so Lisa, had you seen this movie before?
I had seen it. It didn't, to be honest, I remembered a lot of it, and then a lot of it I forgot. And I think the part I forgot was really the ending. I didn't, for some reason, I didn't remember any of that, but I remembered all the door and the affair and then One Drudgery Life and John Hannah. I remembered all of that bit, but I just didn't remember the ending with the getting hit by the van. And then I just didn't, and that both versions were pregnant and all of that. I didn't remember any of that.
But was your impression that you liked this movie when you saw it? Like, when did you see it? A long time ago?
I'm sure I saw it when it came out. Yeah, because I'm sure it was probably a big deal. And I probably I didn't hate it. I mean, I can't remember being upset, but I feel like I would have been. Like, it was not a very satisfying ending at all.
Martin, had you seen this before?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I saw it when it came out. I saw it at the cinema. I don't think I've watched it since then. And I was, it's always slightly like, you're slightly trepidatious, aren't you, going to a movie from the 90s? Because it's like, it can be just like a sweet rom-com and there'll be like, fat phobia and all kinds of stuff in it that you just don't want, oh, it's this lovely, charming movie. Oh, this is happening now, And
yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised that there wasn't very much of that. There's a couple of bits I was like, we probably wouldn't say that now. But those were relatively minor in the scheme of things. So I actually enjoyed it more the second time because I'd built up the amount of Monty Python material in this in my mind. And it's actually quite minimal. It's just every time it happens, I'm just like, oh, stop quoting Monty Python. That's such a cliche. And actually, it's mostly not Monty Python material, the film. So I had a good time with it. I do quite like the ending. I mean, it's a bit. There's a couple of weird choices there, right? But at the end of the movie, brown-haired Gwyneth is going to get together with John Hannah, and she's going to leave the boyfriend, the awful boyfriend, and she's not pregnant with the awful boyfriend's kid. So that's useful. That's good. I mean, that is sort of a script thing, isn't it? It's like they couldn't just have her going off and having an abortion. That would have been, in the 90s, that would have been a controversial topic.
Yeah.
So, maybe now that's what would happen with the character. But yeah, that character's going to go off and be happy, and that's nice. I do wonder why they killed blonde Gwyneth, but maybe that was just to simplify the story for the audience, so they can just, okay, we're just going to focus on the one Gwyneth and care about what happens to her rather than having these two Gwyneths floating around.
But I mean, they could have killed the brown-haired Gwyneth. What do you think the
put her out of her misery? Like, that was truly.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because that Gwyneth hasn't had the chance to, self-actualize, and blonde Gwyneth has, and she's had a, but you sense that is in brown-haired Gwyneth's future, and that's nice. It's like she kind of had a worse time than blonde-haired Gwyneth, because blonde-haired Gwyneth had, she found her boyfriend cheating on her, walked in on him, and that's horrible, and lost a job, but after that she's rebuilt her life and become this exciting dynamic career person and found love and all this kind of thing. So it's nice that brown-haired Gwyneth is going to have a good time after the events of the movie. That's I don't find that unsatisfying. I'm like, oh, good on you, brown-haired Gwyneth, go and get a haircut.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I saw the movie, period. I'm not an original viewer like you two, which is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting amongst
you don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow?
movies.
I mean, I'm just saying. This is starting to show.
So my question is that in the 90s, did we find the character of Jerry an attractive entity when we watched that movie?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a straight man, so it's hard for me to judge, but no, I don't think it's meant to be. I think that character is really interesting because, like, you could steer him in any, like, direction just a little bit, and he'd become a really different character. Like, if he was, like, more charming, he'd be like Hugh Grant in Bridget Jones, right? Mm-hmm. And he'd just be this sort of gaslighting scumbag that you actually hated. And if you made him a bit more sexy, like, this sort of haplessness and uselessness and victimhood wouldn't really work. You know, you can't really, those two things can't really coexist. But because he's this idiot, kind of weak-willed thing, we just get to enjoy him being tortured by the movie for the whole movie. His best friend laughing at what an idiot he is and how sad he is, because it's all like completely self-inflicted. So it's like if you made him a bit hotter and a bit more appealing, I mean, it would make more sense that these two women were fighting over him, right? It makes no sense that these two women are fighting over
not at all
paying the bills of this guy who doesn't have a job and is failing to write a novel and is just an absolute dickhead. But like by making him that much of an idiot, it is fun to see him just having a terrible time in this film.
Yeah, in every scene, he's sort of, it feels like he's in crisis in every scene. He's never happy, and he doesn't. The character doesn't deserve to be happy because he's incredibly selfish and weak-minded. But yeah, but I don't know. I just like as a viewer in 2023, that doesn't even make. Why would either of those versions of her be dating him in the first place? Period.
Oh, the tortured writer! Come on, that's not so far of a stretch. I mean. You know, he probably, like you, to your point, that he probably is charming when he needs to be. But, when he thought she had a bad day and he took her out drinking and, there was certain kind of fun they were having. You can sort of, I think that the girlfriend, the Jean Triplehorn character, was somehow not all full cylinders. Something was, there was something up there.
Yeah, well, so the backstory is that they were dating. She leaves to go back to America for whatever reason, and then she comes back to the UK, and then they kind of, at which point he's with Gwyneth Paltrow, but they rekindle their existing relationship. So it's pretty clear that like she holds a pretty significant torch for him. Again, why? But she does, and her self-esteem is really tied up in this, and she behaves pretty terribly. She's a real bully to bonehead Gwyneth Paltrow for no reason, just apart from that she's sad and miserable that her scrub boyfriend is staying with this Gwyneth Paltrow. It's a really dysfunctional relationship. I mean, you get the sense that the relationship between Jerry and Helen is a bit more, apart from the infidelity, is a bit more functional.
Apart from that, yeah.
Yeah, apart from that.
Yeah.
He does have his moments of being tender, and when he tries to confess to her, there's a point where he's like, "Look, I'm just going to tell you what's going on," but she's fallen asleep. But he only ever does that once, so it's a bit half-hearted. So he's not completely irredeemable. He's just this sort of jellyfish of a man, isn't he? He's got absolutely no moral backbone or the ability to make any decision whatsoever.
Yeah, he's just a very hapless man, and it gets very depressing quickly. And it goes along with the dreary brown hair. Like that makes sense, right?
Yeah. But so Martin, there's like a few cultural details that I wanted to ask you about with regards to this movie.
Yeah.
There's like when he's having sex with his mistress, they're playing Elton John as the music soundtrack. Is that a thing in England?
Is that a thing that British people do? I mean, you'd have to poll British people. I mean, I'm not enough of an Elton John fan to do that to myself. But I don't know if I'm representative.
Okay.
Very specific question. Wow. Okay.
Secondly, there's also a scene. There's multiple scenes where they're like dribbling like brandy down each other's faces.
Yeah, that's really weird. I think the director watched Leaving Las Vegas and was like, what if Leaving Las Vegas was a rom-com? Because it's just weirdly like trying to be sexy and passionate, but just a bit gross. I find it quite unpleasant.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an anomaly to you.
Do British people dribble brandy? Not unless they're very old, I suppose. I don't know.
And then the other thing was the focus on the Grolsch as a brand of alcohol.
That's got to be Spawn, right? They must have got money from Grolsch. Because Grolsch was everywhere in the 90s. I don't drink lager, and I remember drinking Grolsch in the 90s. It must have been just like at every single bar. But you would never say, do you want to get in the pub for some Grolsches? Should we go Grolsching tonight? Which seems to be the way that they're like using it as a verb in this movie. So no, I don't think that's real.
Okay. Well, okay. Thanks for debunking those three things.
I'm happy to.
On behalf of British people.
No problems.
But this is also, I was just going to say, like, Love Actually was right around this period as well, right?
Yeah, when was I thought
2000 or?
Yeah, maybe a tiny bit later. Because I wonder whether the reason for the success of this film in the UK was that there was a gap between Richard Curtis films. Because Four Weddings was in 1994 and it was huge.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously big internationally, but really big in the UK. And then his next movie was Notting Hill, and that was like 99, I think. So, that was 99. The year before Sliding Doors, Richard Curtis released a movie, but it was the Mr. Bean movie. So clearly...
Okay, there was
British audiences were like, yeah, we want some kind of Richard Curtis-ish.
That's
like
what it
rom-com.
felt like a lot to me, Sliding Doors. Like, there was a definite, like, not as funny as his movies. I mean, tried to be, I should say. I don't know if they always succeed in being really funny, but there was the definite feel of this movie.
Yeah, it's as a British person, it's a little bit more realistic, actually. Like, because in Richard Curtis films, it would be like these people, live in palaces in Notting Hill and not quite sure what they do for work, but they seem to be having a great time, even though they're supposedly in a small bookshop or whatever. This is a bit more realistic. Like, she has to go and when she gets fired from a PR firm, she has to go and get a job. She has to go and get and she gets a job like delivering sandwiches because she needs money to pay rent, and that's a little bit less the kind of Disney-fied Richard Curtis world, but it definitely feels in that world, doesn't it? And I think because there was that 5-year gap, maybe people were like, we need more like sweet eccentric comedies set in London where London looks really cool and charming, and Richard Curtis is not delivering those at the moment.
Yeah, it had more of a, but it also, like, Richard Curtis movies are also strangely dark for me. This one had that to me. Like, I kind of as much as we're like having sort of fun going on this journey, it's really sad. It's a really, really sad movie. Even when we're with happy blonde Gwyneth, it's still pretty sad. I mean, she's pretty much broken up all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we like an underdog, don't we? We like a scrappy underdog, especially in the UK. And so her, kind of, like, it's very relatable. Someone like losing their job and either getting mugged and having to go to hospital or finding out their boyfriend is cheating on the same day. Like, that's a really terrible day. And like her kind of clawing herself up from that is like a journey that we want to see. So yeah, I think that kind of dark humor is part of it. Like, we want to see these characters like triumph over adversity, not just kind of skate along being successful in life, being a fancy manager at a PR firm or whatever she's doing at the start of the film.
Yeah, I found the sort of initial justification of like her horrible day, like starting by getting fired in that office, to be it was a little weak, I think, because she kind of fired herself. She like walked into the office and is like, oh, I bet you think this is what I did and I didn't do it, but I also think you're going to make me, like, you're going to fire me. So I guess I'm fired. Goodbye. And then kind of like leaves. And I don't know, it just felt strange. That felt strange.
I think you meant to think she's like several steps ahead of them, right? Because she walks into that room, it's all men, and she's the only woman at this firm. And they're all just kind of, staring daggers at her. And she's working out in real time. Oh, they're going to fire me. How are they going to do that? Oh, they're going to say that I stole this booze. And she just doesn't give them the satisfaction of doing that. So it's sort of her taking control of the situation, isn't it? She's sort of, and showing that she knows exactly what's going to happen. She's kind of in control in that space, in that room.
And then we're like also meant to believe that she's better than that place because she starts her own firm. Or at least blonde Gwyneth does. So she's better than all of them.
Yeah, I think brown-haired Gwyneth does eventually. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like her sliding door moment could have been like the moment she decided to take the alcohol or not take the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she wouldn't have been sacked at all, I suppose. But then you wouldn't see her like being getting shouted at about people getting food poisoning from sandwiches. Does that ever happen? I don't know. And it was made up.
I mean, it depends.
That was weird. That scene though, like when I thought maybe it was just like fake that because it was the girl. But then again, they bothered to have a really close-up shot of her getting the tuna out. I noticed of the case.
You could have bad tuna.
Can do it.
Yeah, that would mess you up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the point of the sliding doors moment isn't that she doesn't have control over it, isn't it? It's like she doesn't decide to like step aside for the child on the stairs. It's like the parent like dragged them to one side. So it's sort of, I mean, the film is about things you don't have control over, isn't it, in a way? And I guess that
right.
The message of it is very small events can change your life in radical ways, including getting hit by a van, and that can just be because you got on a train quickly 2 months ago or whatever it is. Also, like, the events of this film, they don't seem to be over a very long time scale. So although these are like radical life events for the Gwyneth that lived, that's it's compressed into quite a short time. And like in a year's time, these will just seem like, well, that was a bad couple of months, But that's the time we spend with it. Yeah, because
it's about a month, right? A month or two, it seems, or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't quite work it out, but that feels about right, doesn't it? Because she gets pregnant and that takes more than no time. I don't know, like...
yeah, that's true. She would, like, they had her almost noticing the next day or something, it felt like. I don't know.
Yeah, that was confusing.
I was confused by that. Yeah. I'm not a biology graduate, but, you can, maybe someone who is can speak to that.
Well, that's not us either.
No. But those were like, anyway, those choices, like, these, when you watch these movies and you're, it had its own success, so they're not going to listen to me about ways it could have been better. But I would just like to ask them, as we were just, discussing, like, what was it about making both of them pregnant? Like, what was that about? Like, why was that necessary for this story?
Is that just a parallels thing? Like, there's a lot of points where there's sort of parallels. Like, they're both in, at the end, John Hannah is in the hospital.
Well, and then they were in the same bar together, and yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and they have sort of these parallel lives, but they're sort of different. And she's pregnant by different people in the parallel timeline. So maybe it's just sort of it felt like symmetric or something. But yeah, I agree. And it adds stakes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just feels like screenwriter stuff. It's like
we have to have stakes. We have to have like. There you're right.
We have to have a second act, disconnect between the main characters. We have to have this, because that's what a screenplay has. But
because there was like the Jeannie Triplehorn character was also pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'd like to know what happened
with that.
What happened with that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because is she then trapped in that? I mean, I guess she's not trapped in that relationship. She could go off and raise the child on her own. But it feels like it kind of ties her to this awful man that she's already broken up with. Or maybe he's going to, up his game and write a novel finally. I don't know.
Yeah. It was just an odd choice. I felt like there were just, I suppose when I think about it fairly, there really wasn't a lot going on in this movie. There was rowing, restaurant openings.
Chanting, group chanting in a
I hated the group chanting.
Yeah.
If you ever walked into like a pub where there's like a rugby club like having a celebration, it's just like it just screams like don't go in there.
Yeah.
Like get out, civilians. This is our purpose. It's horrible. Yeah. Well, I mean, also there's a lot of characters you don't see. Like you don't really see what's the name of the artist friend that she stays with. You don't see that character, I think, at all in the brown hair Gwyneth.
Outside of the house, you mean? Like her house or something? Her friend, you mean? She's staying with? Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't see her in the brown haired Gwyneth timeline, I don't think. I don't think you see her at all, like, because she's just with her boyfriend and living a life and doesn't need the friend to give her emotional support. Yeah. So she doesn't like go, do you want to go for a cup of coffee? Like that doesn't happen. And you don't know about her, like anything about her family or any of their other friends. Like they've each got like each of the characters have got like one friend. Like John Hannah's got the restaurant guy, and Jerry's got the guy that laughs at him all the time, and Helen's got the artist, and that's it. So like, but they're trying to do two stories, right? So there is overlap, but it is essentially two films. Like it's two stories. So if they'd fleshed that out with these supporting characters, it would be like a 3-hour Scorsese epic to fit all of that stuff in.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say the editing job on this movie must have been a huge challenge, and I feel like they did a great job with that.
Yeah, I find it surprisingly easy to track what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they changed their hair color. That really helps. But like, there's lots of points where you could just get really confused and be like, is that John Hannah who's met Gwyneth Paltrow, or John Hannah who, there's lots and lots of characters who just look the same in both timelines. And you do sort of manage to follow the thread of it, which is quite impressive.
Yeah. But she also shouldn't be putting earrings back in that fall on the ground because they're dirty.
Oh, is that bad? Is that bad?
Clip-ons are an odd choice. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that people
Yeah,
still wore clip-ons.
I don't think she'd be wearing. I don't think she'd be wearing clip-ons.
No,
and I don't think she would be putting it back on her ear.
No.
That's a good tip.
Some details. Anyway, so do we think this movie pops?
Yeah.
Lisa.
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's thought-provoking. It keeps you going. I don't remember ever being bored watching it. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Martin?
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it. As I said, I enjoyed it more the second time around. Because there's not that much Monty Python in it, it turns out. Yeah. It's fun. Like, some of the writing is weird, but a lot of the performances really carry it. Like John Hannah's character is written a bit annoying and a bit stalkery, but he's really likable. So he kind of carries it. He kind of carries it. And I think all the performances in it are really good. And like, especially the Russell, Jerry's friend, who just, anytime Jerry says he's sad, he just bursts into peals of laughter. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe that Jerry deserved all of that. So yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to give this one a pop as well, just because it has lived on as a cultural force. And I think, like the movie Gaslight, you want to see what the source material is for this term, because it's been referenced in so many other things like Frasier, Broad City, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. People write TV episodes about it. So,
and it's also, I mean, I think about it like my own life. You never,
Have you had a sliding doors moment, do you think?
Probably. I don't know though. I mean, there was that new rom-com that was out at Christmas on Netflix, and it's this woman misses her plane, and then she meets, the man of her dreams at the airport, and if she'd got on the plane, right? So no, I think I don't know. I think I think about that quite often. You don't know, like, was that whole I think that's like one of those allegories where there's a man and he wins the lottery, and people say to him, "Oh, you're very lucky, and he says, "We'll see." And then he buys a house with his winnings, and the house blows up. But he was outside the house, and then they say to him, "Oh, you were really lucky." It goes on like that. So you don't really know what's the fortunate part and what's the unfortunate part yet.
The thing is, she doesn't know that she's had a sliding doors moment, because it's such an inconsequential moment of her life. It's not like she's like, "Oh, I'll phone Jerry and see if he's home," and that's when she, there's no intentionality in it at all. It's this split-second thing. So I think if we've had them, we probably wouldn't recognize them, right?
No.
I mean, I guess so, but unless, because she's dead after she gets hit by the bus, so she can't be like, "Oh, if I stepped off that corner like 10 seconds earlier or later, that would not have happened to me."
Yeah, I mean that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was kind of a sliding doors moment as well. Yeah. Being hit by a van is really a sliding doors moment for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you don't know. But I mean, like, Lisa, when you when you broke your foot last year,
yes.
If you had been like, did you think about that like as a
only 5 million times? Yes. Yeah. No. I think once you have like catch you up, Martin. During the pandemic. I was going down my back stairs. It was raining, and my dog wouldn't come in the house. And so I ran down my back stairs to get him out of my yard. And I missed the final stair. Like I didn't see, and my foot went straight down onto the cement. And I broke 4 bones.
Oh my God, that sounds really painful.
A million times I have thought about if I had just walked down those stairs, if I hadn't been so angry at my dog, if it hadn't been dark, if it hadn't been, honestly, I have replayed that moment so many times. And I've never got mad at my dog again or run down the back stairs. So maybe that is my lesson. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're to take the message of this movie, things just work out the way they work out anyway.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I would have broken another way. Who knows? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There, you made me feel better. I have Skrillix to look forward to, and I know now that I probably would have broken my foot anyway.
But you might have like a blonde pixie cut.
Yeah. That's next. Yeah.
It is a weird message to be like, well, it doesn't really matter what you do. Like, there'll be these tiny little things that you don't even realize happen. They change your life in all sorts of ways. You might die. But fate has its stuff in store for you. So, get on with it.
Yeah.
And you have no control. Bye.
Yeah, maybe it's Buddhist or something.
Yeah.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we like to leave our episode on things we recommend. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So it is the award season now. So now is the time to get out and see all of the movies that will probably be nominated for all these awards. And I went last night to the theater to see Poor Things. Have either of you seen it?
Not yet.
No.
It is quite a trip. It is one of the most unusual films, highly recommended. Lots to talk about after, whoever you're with. And just some of the most amazing visuals I've ever seen. So no problem, no notes. Just go see it.
And is it one of those things where it's better if you don't really know anything about it before you go see it?
Yes. Which is why I'm saying nothing.
Right.
People did tell me things, which I wish they hadn't. So I am saving you that. Don't. It's playing at the park. It was, what was interesting to me is I went with a few friends last night and we couldn't sit together. It was packed.
Oh, really?
So, and I don't know if that's because of a Golden Globes bump but the park's a pretty big theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just absolutely packed last night. So I had to hold the movie starting because the popcorn lineup was so long. So, yeah.
Wow.
I don't get the impression it's so much of a popcorn movie, but each to their own.
Me and theater popcorn have a long-standing relationship, no matter what the film. So, don't read anything, don't talk to anybody, just go.
Okay.
That's a good rec.
Okay, Martin, what's your recommendation?
Well, a podcast I really like is just coming back off hiatus. It's been on hiatus for about a year. It's called Imaginary Advice, and it's a podcast by UK experimental poet and writer and occasional sort of video maker and live performer Ross Sutherland. And it's really, I think it's probably my favorite podcast. It always manages to do something a little bit different every episode. There's a lot of fiction, there's memoir, there's essayism. Sometimes he'll collaborate with guests, other poets, writers, and so on. And it's consistently brilliant. Like, it's one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. So he's been off. He was off last year essentially on paternity leave. So it's exciting to hear it coming back. I normally store them up over a period of months and then binge them.
Oh wow! Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
Recommend. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to recommend The Gilded Age on TV.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's actually the perfect thing to watch when you have the January blahs, because it's this like a beautiful show where nothing really happens. It's not stressful. There's it's a society drama. It stars really good people: Carrie Coon, Cynthia Nixon, Christine Baranski. It's like comfort watching, and yeah, it's interesting, but nothing is going to like shock you or stress you out when you watch it. It's just very lovely.
Sounds
So
perfect.
yeah. All like the costuming is beautiful. And that's what I spend most of my time thinking about. And that's what I want for January. But now that we've made it Skrillex January, I guess it's like,
You can't go back.
yeah.
We could still throw a ball
Yes, we could.
for
The
Skrillmas.
Skrillex ball. Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Skrillmas.
I mean, he really deserves that. The contributions he has made to
He deserves a
you know.
crinoline. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they're called? Those big like
Taffeta. Yes, the whole thing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
bell-shaped
we could make it
dresses.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, Martin, for joining us on this episode. It was great to have you.
Very
Thanks so much
great.
for
Thank
having
you.
me. Thank you.
Thank you for
As-
all your insight, and especially
Yeah,
about Elton
you
John,
Quantum
Brandy,
physics,
you know,
Bran-
yeah,
quantum physics,
really-
Monty Python.
Really used your doctorate in this instance. It was like good that you got that and could appear on our podcast because
I'm so glad I spent 4 years
all
getting
came
that
together,
doctorate
yeah.
just for this one episode.
Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. You could rate or review us on your favorite podcatcher, and you can email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com.
And thanks to Andrea Gin, our co-host and producer, and thanks to you, Martin, again. It was really lovely to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really fun.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Merry
Bye.
Skrillmas. Bye.
Merry
Skrillmas.
Skrillmas.